For this problem, we're going to make two histograms from the class data. We're going to choose two variables, and in fact, you can choose any two variables that you want, make a histogram for them, and then comment on how the distributions are different. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the data on how much org psych students like Justin Bieber, and the second variable is going to be how much org psych students like Star Wars. So you need to get the file either from Sakai or from, I might have sent an email to you that has the class data plus the data from previous classes of org psych students. I'm going to bring that file over here. And what we have is we've got a number of columns, and I want the data on how much people like Justin Bieber, column B, and how much they like the Kardashians. Now I could copy that whole table into the homework, but I'm just going to copy columns B, and I'm going to go shift. So I selected the whole column by clicking on B, and I'm going to do shift right arrow for C and D. So I have those three columns selected. I'm going to do control copy. Now I'm going to go back to the homework assignment, and I'm going to I'm going to select column H, and I'm going to select three columns. I'll do shift right, select I and J, and now I'm going to do control V, and there I've copied the data over, and it's all selected. And if we go down to the bottom, we can see it goes to, I have it going down to line 69. Your data will probably go down farther because I'm doing this before the class data has been collected. But I want to make it into a table, so I have the cursor someplace in the data. I go to insert and I put table in, and it suggests what it should be and that my table has headers. I click OK. Now I've got a table. Now I don't need the data on the Kardashians, so I'm going to select column I by right-clicking on the I, and I'm going to press delete. So now I have the data on Justin Bieber and Star Wars, and I want to make a histogram out of two histograms, one for each variable, to see how the distributions are. Now the first thing that we need to do to make a histogram is we need to make a frequency distribution table. So I'm in the table, it says Table Tools Design, and I'm going to summarize with a pivot table. So I click on Summarize with a pivot table, and it says Select a table or range, and so it selected the table there. And I want to put it in an existing worksheet. So I'm going to click there, and I'm going to click in the location box, and I think I will put the pivot table, the frequency chart, I'm going to put it in K2. So then I press OK, and let me move this over here. And I've got to set up our pivot table. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take Bieber. I'm going to drag it down into values. And it says, aha, you want us to add up all the Bieber numbers? And I say no. So I have to click this down arrow. I'm going to change the value field settings to count, because that's what we want for a frequency table. So I choose count, and I press OK. And now for the rows, I don't want them all in one row. I'm going to bring Bieber down to rows. And it says, aha, you want the numbers for each one? And I say, yep, that's it. Now, row labels, I'm going to change that. I've clicked on row labels. I'm going into the editor there, and I'm going to put Bieber attitude. That's how we can Bieber attitude, and tab, and for count of Bieber, I'm going to put frequency. So there we have our frequency distribution of what people think of Justin Bieber. I can turn off our pivot table, And now I want to go to, I want to insert a histogram, which I have to use a bar chart. So I go to the bar chart there, I click that, and I choose the first one. And I've got a crude bar chart there that we need to fix up. Now let's change the title here. I'm going to call this Org Psych Students Appreciation of Bieber. And I'm going to put what the numbers mean here. 1 equals, oh, let's not say what we really think of, let's just say low. Nope, I'm biased, I shouldn't have said that. Comma, 5 equals high. And so I'll press enter, and that's our title. Now this would look a little better if we put that parentheses on the bottom line. So I'm going to delete the blank space, I'm going to press enter. There we have the title. Now this key here doesn't look very good. I'm going to select that and delete it. Now we don't have axis titles, but we do have these little field buttons in there. In Pivot Chart Tools Analyze, you can see that the field buttons are turned on. I'm going to click on the down arrow and I'm going to say hide all. Now we can put in the axis titles, which are going to be a lot clearer. So I'm going to click on this plus for chart elements, or you can also find the chart elements by going up to Pivot Chart Tools Design there. And I'm going to click on chart elements, axis title. I want the 2 axis titles. And so the first one, I put the cursor in there, go up to the edit bar, and I'm going to call this count. And the bottom one, I'm going to call attitude toward Justin Bieber. Now, I could have called this a number of different things. I could have put over on the y-axis, I could have put count or frequency or number of students. It's the same idea. Now we've got a bar chart, and notice how there's gaps in between each of the bars, but we want it to be a histogram where there's no gap between the bars. So I'm going to double click on one of the bars, and it should select all of them. And if it doesn't, keep clicking until you select all of them. And I'm going to go over to the Format Data Series. I'm going to click on the bar charts, and I'm going to reduce the gap width to 0. So now it looks like a histogram, but it'll be more clear if we have solid black lines rather than these gray lines. I'm going to go to the paint can, and for border, I'm going to put solid line, and it's black already, and I'm going to raise the width to 2 points. And there we have a histogram that's a lot easier to read, and we can see that it generally is very high for 1, and then the others are kind of equal. 3 is more normal. This might be described as what's known as a floor effect. People might really, really dislike Justin Bieber, and if they could have given him zeros and -1s, they might have done that. We would have gotten more normal distribution. Okay, so let's let's move this table over here. I'm going to close this format chart area. I'm going to drag the table over there. And now we want to make the histogram for how much students like Star Wars. I'll click in Star Wars, go to the table design tools, summarize with a pivot table, and I'm going to put the location. I'm going to put it in the existing worksheet. The location, I click in the box, and I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to put it in K11. And so I press OK. And this time I'm going to put Star Wars down for the values. And we don't want the sum of the Star Wars. We want to change, click the down arrow, value field settings. And I'm going to put count. Okay. I've got 68 Star Wars scores, but we want to put the different scores in the rows. So I drag that down to rows, and we have a frequency distribution. So I'll change the title here, click in where it says row labels, go up to the edit bar, and I'm going to put Star Wars attitude. And again, I'll call this frequency. Delete count of Star Wars. Frequency. Enter. And there we have our distribution, frequency distribution. And I want to convert this into a frequency table. Now, something that you want to do if you're using a PC, you just have to click someplace in the table. If you're using a Mac, you need to select everything except the grand total line. Go to insert, and we're going to click on a bar chart. And once again, we get the bar chart like that. And let's adjust it. We're going to put for the total, the title, I'm going to put org psych students appreciation of Star Wars. And then in parentheses, I'll put 1 equals low, comma, 5 equals high. And I'll put that whole parentheses down at the bottom. I'll click in there, delete the space, click enter. Delete the key over here. We don't need that. Let's turn off these field buttons. So I go to Pivot, Chart Tools, Analyze, Field Buttons, Hide All. Now we want to put in some axis titles. So I'll click the plus to add chart elements. I'll add axis titles. And the y-axis, I'll call count like I did before, count. And for the x-axis, I'll click on it, and I'll go into the editing bar, and I'll put attitude toward Star Wars. There, and now we need to adjust the bars. So I double click, select all the bars. I'm going to close the pivot table field and reduce, we're under the bars series options. I'm going to drag the gap width down to 0, and while everything's still selected, I'm going to the paint can. I'm going to choose border, solid line, make sure it's black, and I'm going to increase the width to 2.0, and we have a nice histogram of the students' appreciation of Star Wars. I'm going to close the formatting box here. I'll drag this back over, and we can put the this bar chart underneath, and we can compare them. And I think I'll go over here, and we can see that whereas with Justin Bieber, the class has this tendency to not like him. The ones are the highest values, and the five are the least. Now, in terms of Star Wars, it's not quite the opposite, but you see a trend towards liking it, even though there's a good number of people that don't like it. Now, it'd be interesting to find out if the people that don't like Star Wars are the ones who like Justin Bieber, and if the ones who don't like Justin Bieber are the ones that have a real strong appreciation for Star Wars. It probably wouldn't be a perfect correlation, but I bet you there's some relationship.